Hey, what's up everyone? Adam here with brahwegotthis, and today we have the 4th ultimate class guide here in the channel. This one features the exciting, sneaky, but very good Nightblade class. If you're new to this series, I have been making a full in-depth guide on all the classes in ESO. What I do is I go through with you how to play this class, what roles suit it best, what each skill is and its arsenal does, and where it fits in, and I will have a starter build for each role as well. After this video, you should have a better grasp on what the class does and how to play it. So let's jump into one of my favorite classes in ESO. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to all the patrons. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to become a patron, check out the link below in the description. You can get your name up here on the screen. You can also get early access to videos as well. So starting out, the Nightblade class is a fully base game class, which means you don't need any expansions, DLC, or ESO Plus to have the class. This class comes with the base game, and the base game is actually on sale right now, so you can pick it up as low as $8, and it's actually free to play right now as well if you don't want to buy it. So if you want to play the Nightblade class, you're probably wondering, what is this class about? Well, this is essentially a rogue class or a thief class if you want to put it that way. But what I'm going to go into is their utility, if they're a good class, are they easy to use, and what makes them different than other classes. So we will start with, are they good, and what is their utility like? Nightblades are a very, very good class. In my opinion, this class is, again, a class that can exceed at all roles at a pretty high level in the game. You can make a tank, healer, Magicka DPS, and stamina DPS. They have unique and fun uses and bring a lot of benefit to groups and solo play. Like the Necromancer class, Nightblades feel like you get to use a good bit of your class abilities, and again, I really like it when a class allows me to use its skill lines because that's what makes it fun a lot of times for me. But the utility Nightblades have are off the chart. We will get more in depth into those when we break down the roles and the skills, but they have great execute skills, great resistances, amazing built-in crit and sustain. They have fantastic mobility and crowd control, and they have great buffs, heals, and more. Now let's talk about, is the Nightblade an easy class to use? So I think Nightblades are actually middle of the road to advanced, in my opinion, to use. And again, this is an opinionated answer, and some players may think the Nightblade are the easiest class in the game to play, but for me, it isn't the case. Before I get into that though, I want to mention that I have spent most of my time playing a Nightblade tank and a stamina DPS. I'm leveling a Magicka DPS as we speak on my beginner series, and I've played healer briefly. So the reason I find the class challenging is for a couple reasons. If you're a new player, this class has some insane single target damage, but I found leveling this class up and going through content, I found that I struggle with big mob packs, especially Magicka Nightblade. Stamina Nightblade has the luxury of having the weapon skills and having some nice cones and AoE damage, like just really nice burst damage in my opinion, but for some reason I really struggle in multiple enemy encounters. The reason I think that this is the case is, one, the Nightblade has only 2 abilities that are AoE damage. If you look at their skills, you've got Drain Power here, which is an AoE in a sense, and then you've also got Path of Darkness, which ends up being an AoE as well. But in reality, that's kind of their only AoE, skill besides maybe their ultimates that does damage. Some of these you get later in the game as you level, but for me, it felt like I was struggling in AoE fights a lot. Another reason I find the class difficult is the abilities that are AoE or in general honestly are hard to see the area that is being affected when you use the skill. For instance, when you use Drain Power, you don't see like a yellow circle like you do with Volley or Boneyard, and with Refreshing Path, you just see a path very faintly, but that's it. So I'll show you right now. If I do, if I go to Path of Darkness and I'll do, let's just say Twisting Path, and I put Twisting Path on my bar, and then I put, we'll do Sap Essence, put that on my bar too. So when I use Twisting Path, okay, you see this, right? But like, for me, this skill is very difficult to tell, like, okay, what is actually being damaged? Because you have like the black smoke going this way, and then you have the red going this way. And we're in a very well-lit area. So imagine if you're in a dark dungeon or a cave and you use that skill. Like, I don't understand, for some reason, it just feels like it's a very difficult skill to understand what is being affected. And that's just kind of my opinion on that. And some people might be like, dude, you're being stupid. Like, what are you talking about? It tells you it's a 15-meter radius, but for me, it just feels like it's like, okay, where is this affecting though? I like, is it like where this black smoke is, or is it where the red's at? It's, for me, it's just something that really confuses me. Now, when you use Sap Essence, you see the same thing. It's just around you, so it's like you can't really tell how close you need to be to something. Yes, you can look at the tooltip, and you can see that it says within 8 meter radius, but I mean, like, how are you supposed to know that this from here to that pole is 8 meters? You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's just a very difficult thing to tell when you're in a fight, and that's something I really did actually find as a challenge when it came to being a Nightblade. And then there's another skill as well called Lotus Fan that you really don't see like a conal shape, because if you look at Lotus Fan, it says that it is 22 meter range, but a 6 meter radius. And again, it's, for me, it's very confusing on what the heck is going on. So like if I like use Lotus Fan on these targets over here, so we'll go over here, like, okay, I used it on that target and it's supposed to go to other targets, but for some reason for me, Lotus Fan, I just try to keep in my mind is, okay, I'm just going to hit one target with this, but in general, this has a radius, you know? So it's just stuff like that that really kind of made it a little more confusing for me when it comes to Nightblade. I feel like they really could tweak these a little bit and make it easier to see the areas affected, because for me, it is super confusing. Another reason that I found this class to be difficult is just understanding how all the skills work together. I would say for Stamina Nightblade, this is where I feel like I've struggled the most, but I will say that in this guide, I am going to try to make you the easiest Stamina Nightblade to play. So with saying all this, I hope I haven't scared you off from playing Nightblade. I still think it's a fun class, great class to play, but I think it does take some learning. But let's get into what makes the Nightblade different from other classes. Well, for starters, it has an execute that is just bonkers. I mean, not every class really has an execute, but this one has an execute that Stamina and Magicka DPS can both use. And it's ranged for Magicka DPS, which is nice. But this is Assassin's Blade here. This will morph into Killer Blade or Impale, and it basically just deals a ton more damage when enemies are below 25% health. It's absolutely insane. The Nightblade also has insane resistances for tank. You've got Blur. So Blur is in the Assassination line here too. It morphs to Mirage or Phantasmal Escape. This gives you minor resolve, which is really nice, and major evasion. And it has great passives for tank as well, like the resistances as well. You've got Master Assassin. You've also got the Shadow Barrier, which gives you major resolve when you cast a shadow ability, and this lasts for a while, depending on how much heavy armor you have. There's just some really, really nice passives there for tank and resistances. Another huge selling point in the Nightblade is the amazing built-in crit and sustain on skills. Okay, so for one, you have Siphoning Strikes, which goes to leeching or siphoning attacks. This is your sustain skill, basically. So every time you light or heavy attack, you're going to restore health and magicka or stamina, depending on which morph you take. And you will get magicka back with siphoning attacks at the end. Same with leeching strikes. It's really nice. Then you have the assassination line of Grim Focus, which goes to Relentless Focus or Merciless Resolve. This will, again, last for 54 seconds in every stack of Merciless Resolve you have. So once you do like a light attack, you'll get 2%. You can have 5 stacks, so 5 light attacks, or I think like a heavy attack is 2 stacks. You're going to get 10% damage to critical damage and healing. So that right there just stays up for 54 seconds until it ends, unless you use the arrow or the thing that's in this skill that you will see later in the skill section. But this is an insane skill. Those 2 skills right there are fantastic for Nightblades. Also, its mobility, like I said, is off the charts with Path of Darkness. You've got, so the one I just showed you that's hard to see, Twisting Path or Path of Darkness or whatever you want to choose with that, it gives you and your allies major expedition, and it also does damage or it heals. The Lotus Fan or the teleport skill, like I said, like the teleport strike, that will leap you across 22 meters, which is a long way, which is really nice to get into a fight really quickly with like a tank or if you're doing PvP. It has a massive self-heal, which is Shadow Cloak, which will morph into Dark Cloak, which is based off your max health, so it's really nice for tanks. This gives a insane heal. And again, the buffs are insane as well for healer, Magicka DPS, tank. This skill right here, Drain Power, which morphs to Sap Essence, this gives, this does magic damage, heals you and your allies. It does 20% more per enemy hit, and this gives you major brutality and sorcery, increasing the weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. It's insane. The ultimates are again bonkers, but the one I really want to highlight is Consuming Darkness because of the synergy that you lay down for your team, okay? Consuming Darkness is right here. The Hidden Refresh synergy is an insane heal for your team, and it gives them movement speed. This is a nice ultimate run for a tank or a healer. It feels like every skill is loaded with abilities with Nightblade that help you tremendously. It is a powerhouse of a class. So in conclusion, with the Nightblade, you are going to dish out a lot of single target damage and burst damage. You're going to have some insane execute potential. You can buff and heal your teammates for an insane amount as well. AoE to me feels like it isn't as strong as in other classes, but the other pros make up for it. So let's go through the roles specifically now, and then we will get into the skill section and then the builds. So I will start out with tank. I have played more tank than Magicka DPS and healer, but this is my favorite role of the Nightblade. I actually have a Nightblade tank build on the website and in the YouTube channel that I absolutely love. This is a hybrid build that does damage and tanks, but Nightblade tanks have it all at their disposal. They have self heals with cloak. They have insane resistances with blur. They have buffs and debuffs with drain power, Lotus fan. They can survive so well, and they have great sustain as well. I love the RP about the Nightblade tanks because they have this sapping effect that you can really build off of. The build in this video will be my Nightblade build that is on my website with some tweaks, but it has a build that is, it is a build that is unkillable. It is truly fun and exciting. For stamina DPS, this is the DPS I have played most for Nightblade, but I have had the most struggles with. This is a great DPS and has high potential, I believe, but it really does take some practice in getting used to your rotation and skills. This again has an insane single target damage potential with Killer Blade. You've also got Surprise Attack, which is also really nice as a stamina DPS. You have Summon Shade, which is nice damage over time and just a skill you don't even have to worry about. You just pop it and just leave it up. You have an insane buff from your ultimate incapacitating strike, which is something you'll see later in the skills section. You have passives that enhance your abilities tremendously. So for instance, in the assassination line, you've got this Master Assassin passive, you've got the Executioner passive, you've got Pressure Points, which is just going to increase your weapon and spell critical, which is insane. You've got Hemorrhage, which gives you an increase in critical damage by 10% when you have an assassination ability slotted. I mean, it's just crazy. But where the challenge comes for me is with this role, it's just overall understanding the comprehension of the rotation. In my opinion, it's very confusing, so I will have a build that is a lot easier to use. For Magicka DPS, this is a role that I'm currently leveling up, and I feel like I'm having an easier time with than Stamina DPS besides the AoE aspect, like I said. I believe that it's just easier for me to play Magicka characters anyways in general due to the sustain of when you dodge or sprint, you just don't lose your stamina. But I don't know this role like the back of my hand, but what I can tell you is it will share similar skills like the Stamina Nightblade, just the opposite morphs basically. I feel that if you wanted to play an easier DPS, you should choose the Magicka version of this. Also from my community, I've heard that the Magicka Nightblade hits like a truck if you know how to use it, but my Magicka Nightblade build will be easy to use in this guide later on. But again, it has very similar skills, just the mirror basically of the Stamina Nightblade. It's just you're not having to fight for your resources, kind of like when you run, sprint, dodge, all that stuff, right? You have a nice execute, you have sustain and crit skills, and you have the buffs for your team and the passives as well. It's basically the same thing in my opinion when it comes to the key skills that you need. For healer, I feel as if this is the class I've played the least, but I have done some dungeons with this class actually at the veteran level or at the CP levels, and I really like what I saw at the Nightblade healer. I've also been theory crafting a blood healer for Nightblade, but I just haven't found exactly what I want yet with it. You might see a variant with that here. You're gonna see a cool healer build with the Nightblade here, but for me, the Nightblade healers are unique. They remind me a lot of the DK healer. Although the DK healer isn't the statistical best healer, it is a unique build that has its own flair. Nightblade healers feel like this, in my opinion. They have unique heals that usually are like blood offering or vampiric by nature. So like you take away from yourself to heal someone else. They actually have some very strong natural heals in these skills as well. You have AoE heals and buffs attached to drain power. You have some solid damage as well, actually. You have burst heals in your toolkit as well as single target heals. You have great sustain once again, but overall toolkit of Nightblade healer is fantastic. I actually watched a video by Nephis a while ago talking about the Nightblade healer. He talked about the Jorvold's Guidance set, and honestly, that is a set that is fantastic for Nightblade healers because Nightblades throw out so many minor major buffs. You basically are a buff machine, but it's just something that was a really good point that he brought up. But now what I'm going to do is go into the passives and skills, and then we're going to go into the starter builds. Okay, so now we're going to go into the skills and the passives of the Nightblade. And something that I want to keep in mind that is When you go through this, or when you're listening to this, you have to keep in mind that right now I am on a blank character template without any CP, without any armor on, without any stats, allotted. So some of these numbers are going to change depending on if you're a tank, a healer, or a stamina or a Magicka DPS. So just keep that in mind. These are going to be the base statistics that you will see, but I'm more focused on what the skill actually does and the passives and what they do as well. So just keep that in mind as you look at this. So the Nightblade has Assassination, Shadow, and Siphoning skill lines. So we'll start off with Assassinations. First skill is Assassin's Blade. This will morph to Killer's Blade or Impale. So this is the execute that I was talking about before with Magicka and Stamina DPS. You're going to have one for Stamina and Magicka. You see here's Impale. This is a ranged attack, which has a 25-meter range, and it throws a magical blade lethal precision to strike an enemy, dealing 2,182 magic damage, and it deals 300% more damage to enemies below 25% health. This is an insane execute, and you want to use this. This is like the only skill you basically want to use when the enemy's under 25%, besides like some dots and stuff like that. Killer's Blade is the stamina version, and the difference between this is it basically does the exact same thing with the execute. It does 2,182 disease damage, and this heals you for 4,494 if the enemy dies within 2 seconds of being struck. This portion of the ability scales off of your max health. Okay, so this is something, again, that some of those numbers will change a little bit based on your stats, but this is one of the best executes in the game, in my opinion. The next skill is Teleport Strike. This is something that I like to use early on with the Nightblade when I'm leveling, because it lets you get to enemies, but I use this on my tank build, and you'll see that here when we go through the tank, healer, DPS, stamina, and Magicka as well. You'll see this, but this morphs into Lotus Fan and Ambush. What Lotus Fan does is it's a Magicka ability. This will flash through the shadows, ambush an enemy, dealing 2,618 magic damage. After teleporting, you unleash a Fan of Knives, dealing an additional 3,925 magic damage over 10 seconds to the target and nearby enemies. Okay, this has a radius of 6 meters when you do this, and all enemies hit are afflicted with minor vulnerability for 10 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 5%. So this is a nice little debuff that you put on the enemy's. Ambush converts to a stamina ability, and this will also grant Empower. So that's the difference. Empower will increase the damage of your light and heavy attacks by 40%. So I like using Lotus Fan when I'm a tank because this will inflict minor vulnerability. It's a really good debuff to put on enemies. Besides this is just something that you could use in like PvP, and you can use it in PvE, but really I use this more on my tank for Lotus Fan. Blur is a fantastic skill. This is a skill that I use on my tank as well. This will morph to Mirage and Phantasmal Escape. Phantasmal Escape is a Magicka ability. This will gain you Major Evasion, reducing damage from an area of attacks by 20% for 26 seconds. Activating this ability removes all snares and mobilizations from you and grants immunity to them for 2.5 seconds. The Mirage is what I use on my tank, and this is going to give you Major Evasion and Minor Resolve. So this will reduce damage from area effect by 20%, but it will also increase your physical and spell resistance by 2,974 for 26 seconds. Minor Resolve is a great buff to have on you as a tank, so I love this as a tank. And then you'll also see that there's a passive that will give us Major Resolve as well as a Nightblade. Mark Target, okay? This will morph into Piercing Mark and Reaper's Mark. This is a skill that I have not used too much, but what Piercing Mark does is this has a range of 50 meters. This will expose an enemy's weakness to afflict them with Major Breach, reducing their physical resistance and spell resistance by 5,948 for 27 seconds. You can detect marked enemies if they, even if they've used a stealth or invisibility for 3 seconds. When this marked enemy dies, you heal for 6,963 health, and the portion of this ability scales off your max health. You only have one Piercing Mark active at a time. I could see this being used on a tank to apply Major Breach, but for some reason I feel like this skill is more PvP focused. Again, I've not used this skill a lot. The difference between Reaper's Mark is if the marked enemy dies, you heal for more and gain Major Berserk, increasing your damage done. So that's what these skills here do. Next skill in Assassination is Grim Focus. This is a fantastic skill. Okay, Grim Focus, it will morph to Relentless Focus and Merciless Resolve. This is something that you're going to use on basically I think every single role, in my opinion. Relentless Focus is used on your Stamina DPS. So what this does is for 54 seconds, you're going to increase your critical damage and healing by 2% for every light and heavy attack up to 5 times. So if you light attack, you're going to get if you light attack 5 times, you're going to have 10% increased critical damage and healing, which is amazing. While active, hitting an enemy with 5 light or heavy attacks converts its ability into Assassin's Scourge. So once it hits 5 times, like once you have 5 times, it will change the skills interface, and this will allow you to fire a spectral arrow for half the cost that deals 7, 8, 5, 5 disease damage and heals for 33% of the damage dealt if you're within melee range. This is a skill that you really can use up to you. If you want the extra crit damage and critical healing, you just leave it at the stacks and just is there forever basically until you have to redo it every 54 seconds. But if you want extra damage, you can release the arrow. Merciless Resolve is a Magicka ability. This will last for 40 seconds, not 54 seconds, okay? And that will do magic damage instead of disease damage. And so basically, for me, I like to put Relentless Focus on my Stamina DPS. I like to put Merciless Resolve on my healer, my Magicka DPS, and depending on my tank, if I need Magicka resources, I'll put this instead of the Stamina one. But most of the time, I feel like you want to put Relentless Focus for your Stamina character or for your tank, because you need that stamina so you can block and everything like that. But these skills are a must-have for every role. The ultimate in this line is Deathstroke. This is a really good ultimate. This will convert to Incapacitating Strike and Soul Harvest. Incapacitating Strike will deal disease damage, causing them to take 20% more damage from your attacks for 6 seconds, so amazing. It has a very low cost of 70 ultimate. If you cast it with 120 or more ultimate, though, the enemy is stunned for 3 seconds. Now, when you slot this, you gain Reeve, which restores 85 magic and stamina when you deal damage with light or heavy attacks on an enemy with a negative effect active on them, which is absolutely bonkers, to be honest with you. And the Soul Harvest morph, the difference is this will also afflict Major Defile, reducing their healing received. While slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain ultimate. So this is another one if you want to have like a insane ultimate regen. I typically go with Incapacitating Strike, and I put this on my Magicka DPS, Stamina DPS. I even put this on my healer and tank because honestly, this is just a great ultimate. All right, let's go through the passives now. The passives: Master Assassin, increase your physical and spell penetration against enemies you're flanking by 2,974, increase the duration of stun from sneak by 100%. Executioner, when an enemy dies within 2 meters of being damaged by you, restore 1,000 magic and stamina, a great resource regeneration. Pressure points, increase your weapon and spell critical ratings by 438 for each assassination ability slotted. So this is where you can get some insane crit. What I was telling you guys before is that you can get crazy crit, you can get crazy resource regeneration in this class. It's insane, and this is why some of these passives are insane. Hemorrhage, increase your critical damage by 10% with an assassination ability slotted. So if you just slot an assassination ability, you're going to get critical damage up by 10%. Dealing critical damage grants you and your group members minor savagery, increases your weapon critical by 13-14 for 20 seconds. Again, you can get insane critical from this class. It's absolutely crazy, y'all. It's crazy. Okay, let's go to the shadow line now. First ability we have is Veiled Strike. This will morph to Surprise Attack and Concealed Weapon. Surprise Attack is a stamina morph. This will deal physical damage, applying Sundering status effect. Attacking with Surprise Attack from the flank will stun the enemy for 3 seconds and set them off balance. This is really good for off balance builds. This is something you can run for your Stamina DPS if you'd like. I don't really know how to use this well, to be honest with you, so I typically don't put it in my builds. Concealed Weapon, however, for me, I feel like I use a little bit better. This is the same thing, except for it's a Magicka variant of it. For some reason, though, I feel like I can use this better on my Magicka characters. I think it's just because when I use Surprise Attack, I just run out of resources on my Stamina character a lot of times. I don't know how to manage that as well, but I really like Concealed Weapon on Magicka DPS, but it's not, in my opinion, like a necessity for my builds at least, but it's a good skill. Shadow Cloak, this is a insane skill. This morphs to Shadowy Disguise and Dark Cloak. Shadowy Disguise will cloak yourself, become invisible for 3 seconds. The next direct damage attack used within 3 seconds will always be a critical strike. I don't use this morph at all. I just use Dark Cloak, which is insane for healing for a tank because this is a magic ability. This will heal you for 1,243 every 1 second over 8 seconds. This portion will scuff your max health. So again, that number will be way higher on a tank. You're going to heal for a lot of damage because your health is going to be a lot higher. I love this as a self heal for tank. You also gain minor protection for 6 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 5%. So this is a great skill for tank in my opinion. Path of Darkness. This is the skill that I was talking about before that is very, very confusing to actually see and use. It tells you your target, it's an area, and the area is 17 by 7, but it's very, very hard to see. And so this morphs to Twisting Path and Refreshing Path. These are both really good skills though. Twisting Path is a Magicka ability. This will create a corridor of shadows, granting you and allies in an area major expedition. So you'll get increased movement speed by 30%. This will last for 4 seconds after leaving the path. Dealing 1,115 magic damage will also happen to enemies in the target area every 1 second. So it's an AoE. But it's just a very hard AoE to see. I like using this on my Magicka DPS a lot. Refreshing Path is also a Magicka ability. This is one that I like to use on the healer and the tank. This is also going to give you major expedition, but the difference is it's going to heal your allies instead of dealing damage to enemies. So I use this on tank and healer. I use this on Magicka DPS. Aspect of Terror. This morphs to Mass Hysteria and Manifestation of Terror. Mass Hysteria will summon a dark spirit to terrify up to 6 enemies, causing them to cower in fear for 4 seconds. So this is a fear. I don't use this very much. Personally, that's just my opinion. Manifestation of Terror. This creates 2 traps instead, which fears enemies when triggered. So it's just like a trap instead of like a non-trap. I don't really use these as much. Some people might, but I don't use them as much. Summon Shade, this is a great skill. This morphs to Dark Shade and Shadow Image. Dark Shade will summon a shade to attack with you for 17 seconds. This will slash enemies, dealing 15-10 magic damage, and occasionally whirlwinds all enemies around it, dealing 15-10 magic damage every 2 seconds. The shade attacks inflict minor maim, which is amazing. It reduces the enemy's damage done by 5% for 4 seconds. This will scale off your highest defensive stats, so if it's weapon damage, weapon critical, spell damage, spell critical, any of those things. It's a really good ability for stamina and Magicka DPSs. Shadow Image, the only difference is this is a stationary image and it attacks from range. Activating the ability again while the shade is active allows you to teleport to its position. I don't really like using this one. This one's a lot easier to use. You don't have to worry about it. You just let it go and it does its thing. I use this on stamina and Magicka DPS. I don't really use it on tank and healer. You don't really need the minor maim for a tank. You can get it in other ways. And so I just don't use it on that. Now for the ultimate, Consuming Darkness. Another fantastic ultimate by the Nightblade. This morphs to Bolstering Darkness and Veil of Blades. Bolstering Darkness. This is going to cost 200 ultimate. So this is going to reduce movement speed of enemies in a 5-meter radius by 70%, granting you and your allies major protection while inside the ring, and even after leaving, you're reducing your damage taken by 10%. So a huge buff for your teammates and a very big slow for your enemies. Allies in the area can activate the Hidden Refresh synergy. This is a synergy that is amazing. This will grant them invisibility and increase movement speed by 70% and heal them for 100 health over 4 seconds. So basically, your DPS will be healed almost to full, basically in less than 2 seconds. This is an insane synergy that you can run on your tank and your healer. I love this morph for tank and healer. It's a great ultimate. Now, Veil of Blades you could use on your DPSs if you would like. So enemies in the area are actually going to take damage over time, which is really good. They're still going to get that Hidden Refresh synergy, but it's just damage based. I love this ability as well. This is a very fantastic ability to use if you want on your Magicka and Stamina DPS. Now, let's go to the passives. Refreshing Shadows. Increase your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 15%. Fantastic. You want this on every character. I love Shadow Barrier, okay? Casting a Shadow ability grants you major resolve for 6 seconds, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5, 9, 4, 8. This duration is increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor equipped. As a tank, this is one of your best passives, and you'll see this when we go through the tank build. Because as a tank, you're going to use Refreshing Path, you're going to use the Shadow Cloak, and sometimes the Ultimate, and you're going to have all heavy armor on. And so if you have all heavy armor on, this is going to last for a long time. So whenever you use one of those shadow abilities, you're going to get major resolve, and then from your blur, remember in Assassination, from Mirage, you're going to get minor resolve. So you're going to be able to have minor and major resolve up basically 100% of the time, and that's really good for a tank. Dark Vigor. Increase your max health for 3% for each shadow ability slotted. This is going to be nice again for a tank because we're probably going to have refreshing path, this and this, you're gonna have 6% max health from that, which is, or no, you're gonna have 9% max health. I mean, it's gonna be fantastic. Dark Veil, increase the duration of your non-invisibility based shadow abilities by 2 seconds. This is really fantastic. You're gonna get increased duration on all of these that are invisibility based. Now let's go to siphoning. This is the last skill line of Nightblade. First skill is Strife. This is more of the healing line for the most part. This is where you're going to see some unique healing concepts here. This morphs to Funnel Health and Swallow Soul. Funnel Health is a magic ability. This is going to deal 2/7/2/6 magic damage and healing you or 2 other nearby allies for 50% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. So it's a heal and damage over time. And then you have Swallow Soul, which is going to make the damage insanely higher, and the heal is decreased and only targets yourself. So this is the one you would want to use more for your Magicka DPS. This is one you would want to use for your healer. Malevolent Offering. This morphs to Shrewd Offering and Healthy Offering. So Shrewd Offering will sacrifice your essence, healing an ally in front of you for 6,546 health, but draining your own health over 8 seconds. Okay, this will reduce the cost of the ability basically by this is going to cost health, so 2,458 health. This is kind of where a little bit of the Nightblade comes in. It's like a very vampiric style. Healthy Offering is going to cost 3,034 health. The difference between this is you're going to get minor mending after casting it, increasing your healing done. So it's going to kind of make up for it. So I like Healthy Offering more than Shrewd Offering for healers. Cripple. Cripple morphs to Debilitate and Crippling Grasp. Debilitate will sap an enemy's agility, rack them with pain, dealing 654 magic damage over 10 seconds, reducing their movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds. Each tick applies overcharge status effect, inflicting minor magic steal for 4 seconds, causing you and your allies to restore 168 magicka every 1 second when damaging the target. Personally, I don't feel like you need this skill as a healer. You could use just weakness to elements and get magicka steal. I just don't feel like this is necessary. That's just my opinion. Crippling Grasp, this converts some of the damage over time to more upfront damage and immobilize the enemy on impact. Again, I'm just not really using this skill that much, so that's just my opinion, but that's what these do. Siphoning Strikes is an insane skill, and you want this on every single roll that you can have, basically. This morphs to Leeching Strikes and Siphoning Attacks. This is where you're going to get a lot of your resources back, and this is what I was saying the Nightblade has built in. It has resource regen, regain, and it has crit just everywhere. It's got amazing buffs. It's got amazing debuffs. But what Leeching Strikes does is a stamina ability. This is going to last for 20 seconds. This is going to imbue your weapons with soul-stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1452 health and restore 106 stamina for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You restore up to 4,270 additional stamina when the effect ends based on the length of time Leeching Strikes was active. Okay, so this is just going to gain you health and stamina over time. It's amazing for your stamina DPS. Again, you can use this on your tank if you feel like you need more stamina. But if you feel like you need more magicka, you just do siphoning attacks. You use this on your healer, your Magicka DPS, and your tank if you feel like it's necessary. Again, it's the exact same, except for it's magicka instead of stamina. Drain Power. This is, again, another skill that's just jam-packed full of buffs and damage and heals. It's insane. So you have Power Extraction, and you have Sap Essence. Power Extraction is a stamina ability. What this does is it will deal disease damage and apply minor cowardice to enemies' hits. In my opinion, I wouldn't use Power Extraction for stamina DPS. I just don't think it's necessary when you have other skills that can fill this role. But this will give you Major Brutality and Sorcery, increase your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. You can get that in other ways. But again, I'm more focused on the Sap Essence. I use this on my tank, my healer, and my Magicka DPS. This costs magicka, and this will siphon the vigor of your enemy's blood, dealing 3,217 magic damage to all nearby enemies and healing you and your allies for 1,090 plus 20% more for each enemy hit. So every enemy you hit heals for more. If an enemy is hit, you gain Major Brutality and Major Sorcery, granting your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. So again, just an absolutely amazing ability. I love Sap Essence. I think it's really good. And I really don't think Power Extraction is necessary. Sap Essence is just, it's got Major Brutality and Sorcery built in. It's got healing. It's got damage. It's insane. It's everything you want in a skill. The ultimate is my favorite ultimate from the Nightblade, and maybe one of my favorite ultimates in the game. This is Soul Shred. This morphs to Soul Siphon and Soul Tether. Soul Siphon costs 150 ultimate. This will heal for 6,546 health and additional 17,064 health over 4 seconds to you and nearby allies. You and your allies will also gain major vitality, increasing your healing received by 16% for 4 seconds. An ally can activate the Soul Leech synergy, dealing 5,863 magic damage to them and healing for the damaged cause. Really like that ultimate. I like Soul Tether as well. Soul Tether is, the difference is you heal for half the initial damage caused and enemies hit are tethered to you. You deal constant damage and heal while tethered. I like using this one more just because it's very fun and the effect is awesome in my opinion. So let's go into the passives real quick. Catalyst. After drinking a potion, you gain 20 ultimate. It's a fantastic passive. Magicka Flood. Increase your max Magicka by 8% while siphoning ability is slotted. This is going to give you 8% max Magicka. You want this active. Soul Siphon. Increase your healing done by 3% for each siphoning ability slotted. So for your healer, if you have the more of these slotted, the more healing you're going to do. And transfer. Casting a siphon ability while in combat generates 2 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds. A fantastic ultimate as well. Okay, so now we are going to get into the builds here for the Nightblade. So we're going to start off with the Stamina Nightblade, and I will remind you these are starter builds, and I try to make these as simple as I can for, you know, newer players or people that want to get into the class. Again, there are going to be some sets that, you know, aren't necessarily basic beginner sets, but this is, I feel like, a pretty easy build to use to start you out, and honestly these are pretty fun as well. And so I will go through these pretty quickly. I don't spend a ton of time on this just because, again, it is just a baseline so you can start out. So what I'll do is for the Stamina Nightblade, I'm using a Khajiit. I think it's a great class for Stamina Nightblade. You could also use an Orc as well. 64 points into Stamina. I love using the Longfin Pasty with Melon Sauce Food. I'm using the Thief Mundus Stone. And yeah, that's basically it when it comes to the stats. You can check out the stats here. We've got like a weapon critical of like 52.5% without having any buffs at all. Yeah, that's without any buffs. Once we get buffs in there, it actually will go up. For the skills, so we're running bow and two-hand. I love bow and two-hand. I think it's very fun to use. What we're using is Endless Hail on the front bar, which is from the bow line. It's just a great dot, great AoE. We're using Venom Arrow. Okay, we're not using Poison Injection. The reason I'm just using Venom Arrow is I think a lot of beginners need to learn how to interrupt, and this is an interrupt skill. So this will help you when anytime you need to interrupt, but this is a great damage over time as well. It's also just a fantastic ability. You can use Poison Injection if you want. I'm just using Venom Arrow because, again, it's an interrupt. Now, this is like our buff bar. Again, I'm trying to make the Stamina Nightblade this most simple thing as possible, okay? So these 3 skills right here are basically you click them once and you don't touch them for a while. So Leeching Strikes is a 20-second skill. It's going to cause your light and heavy attacks to heal you, like I said, and give you stamina back. Okay, you're also going to restore additional stamina when it ends. Okay, so you pop that. It's pretty easy to use. Relentless Focus is like a 60-second skill. You just want to light attack and heavy attack. This is going to increase your crit damage and healing up to 10% and just leave it. It's very simple. This is Dark Shade. You're just going to pop this every 20 seconds. This is just like a little shadow of yourself, and it's going to do damage to the enemy. It's a very, very good skill. Our ultimate is Soul Tether. This is a fantastic ultimate. I love it. You can use this whenever you feel like it, but the ultimate on the front bar is the one you're going to use the most. So we're going to go to the front bar. We are using 4 two-handed skills and 1 Nightblade skill on the front bar. Some people might be like, what are you doing? I love these skills, so we're using this. So we're using two-hand. We're using Wrecking Blow. Okay, this is a very simple front bar, and I'm going to go through the rotation with you as a Stamina Nightblade here in a second. But Wrecking Blow is your main spammable until the enemy is at 50% health, okay? This is going to do a lot of physical damage, and you want to make sure you light attack after using it because you're going to get Empower for 3 seconds, increasing your damage of your light and heavy attacks by 40%. This is your main spammable until you get to 50% on the enemy. So the next skill is Reverse Slice. This is a execute when the enemy is less than 50% health. So you're just going to spam this. This is also kind of like it has like a conal effect in a way, because other enemies nearby will take 78% of the damage inflicted to the primary target. So it does a nice bit of damage. This is a bleed, and this is a damage over time. Carve, this is just, again, damage over time. Stacks a bleed on the target. It's very, very nice. And you also gain a damage shield. So if you need to, you know, kind of survive with that, you can. You can switch this skill out with a heal. So you could use Vigor, and you could morph it into either Echoing Vigor or Resolving Vigor. You could use other heals as well if you want, but I like using that one. So that could be a switch for you if you want. The fourth skill here is Stampede. Stampede is, again, two-handed. This is going to be a damage over time. This is always going to crit as well, so it's going to do a nice bit of damage, but it's just a nice damage over time, and it gets you to your enemy quicker. It has a 22-meter range, which is pretty insane. Your last skill is another execute, and you use this execute when the enemy is below 25% health. This is going to do a ton of damage. This is Killer's Blade. This is in the assassination line for Nightblade. First skill you get. It is a fantastic skill, and it's probably one of the best executes in the game, in my opinion. And the ultimate is Soul Harvest. I love using this one. This is going to be something that you use before fight if you have it, so you can increase your damage. Because it's going to deal a ton of magic damage, and then it's going to increase your damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds, which is fantastic. And then just for having this slotted, whenever you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. So your ultimate regen is going to be insane with this. So let's go into the skills or the armor real quick, and then we'll go into the champion points, and I'll show you the rotation. So for the armor, we are running Ophidian Jack of Celerity. So this is the Quick Serpent set. This is from the Craglorn Trials, okay, where you, so again, these are trials. I know it's not, you know, a crafted set or anything like this, but these trials are free for anyone. This is in the base game. Anyone can do these, and they're very, very simple on normal. You do not have to have the perfected version, okay? You're going to use max stamina, enchants, and divines. What this does, though, is going to add weapon critical, 2 stacks of max stamina, and then it's going to reduce the cost of your stamina abilities by 8%. When an enemy you have recently damaged dies, you restore 2,454 stamina and gain major expedition for 8 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30%. But I really like this set. I use it on my stamina sorcerer, and it helps me sustain on there. So I really like this, and it's a very easy set to get. The other thing that you're going to use is Leviathan. Leviathan is in Crypt of Hearts. This is in a base game dungeon. Leviathan's just going to give you a ton of weapon critical and max stamina. I'm using the jewelry, a 2-handed battle axe, and a bow. Okay, you do not need the jewelry at yellow, but this is just, again, on the PTS. The battle axe, again, you can use any enchant you want. I'm using Absorb Stamina enchant and Precise. With the bow enchants and the traits, you can kind of just pick and choose whichever one you like with that. Again, this is just kind of stock right here, but you don't have to use 2 weapons. If you're more advanced, you could switch this weapon out with like a Maelstrom weapon, or, you know, something of that nature, or even like a agility weapon. And you do not necessarily need the body pieces of Ophidian. If you find the body pieces of Leviathan first, and then you get the jewelry and weapons of Ophidian, that works too. Again, it does not matter to me, but Leviathan is just a solid set, and it's in the base game as well. Celine's is also the monster mask we're running. We're running Divines, max stamina, we're running medium. This is in the base game too. This is Celine's Web. You will have to run Vet Celine's Web to get this. But this is just when you deal martial melee damage, you call upon a primal spirit that mauls the closest enemy in front of you after 1.3 seconds for 6,530 physical damage. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds and scales off your higher of your weapon or spell damage. So, like I said, it's very simple. We'll go into the champion points now. We have a little bit of a different champion point setup here. So I have some of the base stuff here, 20 points here, 20 points here, but I'm just going to go briefly into these. Fighting Finesse, we're going to have slotted. We're going to have Deadly Aim slotted, Thaumaturge, and Master at Arms. On the red tree, we're going to have Survival Instincts. We're going to have Rejuvenation. We're going to have Bloody Renewal. And another one that might be a surprise is we're going to have Refreshing Stride. While sprinting, you gain 100 health and magic recovery per stage. So that's really nice because we're going to get an increase in 30% movement speed with Major Expedition with our armor set. So anytime you kill an enemy, you're going to get that. So you're going to run faster. When you're running faster, it's going to give you health and magicka recovery, which is really cool, I think. Okay, So we're going to go into the rotation real quick. Again, I tried to make this rotation as simple as possible, but basically you're on your back bar here, and what you're going to do is you're going to pop all the one-time skills that don't need a lot of attention. So first we'll do Relentless Focus, then we'll do Leeching Strikes, Shade, Air Barrage, Poison Injection, Switch Bars. So when you're on this bar, you're going to do your Carve or Stampede, and then what you're going to do is Wrecking Blow, Light Attack, Wrecking Blow, Light Attack, Wrecking Blow, Light Attack. And you're going to do it all over again, except for you do not usually have to reapply your Relentless Focus because it is up for 60 seconds, but you will need to reapply your Leeching Strikes and your Shade every 20 seconds. Arrow, Injection, Carve, Stampede, Wrecking Blow, Light Attack, Wrecking Blow, Light Attack, Wrecking Blow, Light Attack. Okay, and that's what you do until the enemy is at 50% health, okay? And a little tip when you use Wrecking Blow, you see that it has a cast time right there down at the bottom, right? So since it has a cast time, you want to make sure your Light Attack follows that right afterwards. So what you can do is when it's in that casting time, you can click your mouse to queue up a Light Attack. So watch. Click, Light Attack. You see me Light Attack right there? Click, Light Attack. So skill, Light Attack, skill, Light Attack. So that's something you can do for that. It's very, very awesome. So make sure you do that when you are doing that skill. Now, when the enemy's at 50% health, you switch from Wrecking Blow and you use Reverse Slice, okay? Because it's going to do more damage. So again, you Light Attack, Reverse Slice, Light Attack, Reverse Slice, Light Attack, Reverse Slice, and you're just going to do that, okay? That's going to be your spammable. So your rotation will turn out to be it'll be Relentless Focus, Siphoning Strikes, Shade, Arrow, Poison, and then you'll go, you'll still do your Carve, you'll still do your Crit Charge, and then you'll go Reverse Slice, Reverse Slice, Reverse Slice, okay? Now, when the enemy is at 25% health, you switch from Reverse Slice to Killer Blade because it's going to do more damage when this is under 25% health. So, again, in your rotation, okay, you're going to use Relentless Focus, Siphoning Strikes, Summon Shade, Arrow Barrage, Arrow, and then you're going to Carve, Stampede, Killer's Blade, Killer's Blade, Killer's Blade, Killer's Blade. And that is your rotation. That's literally all you do. So again, you go Relentless before the fight, Relentless Focus, Leeching Strikes, Shade, Arrow, Endless Hail, Venom Arrow, Switch Bars, Carve, Stampede, Wrecking Blow until 50%, Reverse Slice until 25%, Killer's Blade until dead. And you use Soul Harvest anytime this is up to increase your damage. And then again, this is Soul Tether. You can use this kind of when you're in a bind. If you need to heal as well, it's a really, really good ultimate. So that is the Stamina Nightblade. And something that I will say is for all the passives on all of these roles and builds, as a Nightblade, you can get every passive in each of your trees. They're all fantastic in my opinion. And then for when it comes to your weapons, just get all the passives with the weapon that you're using. And then for your armor, same thing. And then for your guild, whatever guild you're using, make sure you get the at least Undaunted. You want these Undaunted passives here as well, and your racial passives. Okay, now we're going to go to the Magicka Nightblade. And something that you probably noticed is I actually don't have any fashion on these characters. Normally I have some pretty cool fashion, but I just didn't do any fashion for this. But we are now on the Magicka DPS Nightblade. So again, we'll go into the stats. We got 64 points in Magicka. I'm using a Breton. Because again, I love Breton for Magicka characters. You could use Altmer as well. Longfin Pasty with Melon Sauce, the Thief Moon to Stone as well. And yeah, you see we have 65.5% spell critical without any buffs, which is kind of insane. We have 41.7k max Magicka, which is insane as well. And I love this. This setup is really cool. And I've found that this is something that's very simple to use as well. Again, this is the skills we're using. So on the back bar, we have basically a lot of buffs. Again, I tried to keep this as simple as possible. So we have Unstable Wall of Fire, which is just the Destruction Staff line. It's just an AoE slash damage over time. We then have siphoning attacks, which again is the exact same thing as leeching strikes as the stamina character, but it's Magicka instead. It's going to give you health and Magicka back instead of stamina. We then have Merciless Resolve, which is again the exact same thing as the Relentless Focus, except for again it is Magicka. It is a little bit of a different one. It lasts 20 seconds shorter, but again it is going to give you crit damage and healing up to 10%. So it's going to be a shorter one, but it's still basically essentially the same thing. We then have Twisting Path, which is again that AoE slash like little rectangle that it has. This is going to give your team and you major expedition, but it's also going to deal 2,370 magic damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. And just remember, y'all, magic damage, okay? Magic damage here, okay? Dark Shade, same skill as the Stamina Nightblade. It's going to deal magic damage. You pop this every 20 seconds. So instead of Incapacitating Strike, you actually want to use Soul Harvest here. I chose the wrong morph here. So you want Soul Harvest. I like Soul Harvest more just because it sounds cooler. And it's just, I like the ultimate aspect of it. But Soul Harvest can be here. And then on the front bar, we're going to have Force Pulse, which is on your Destruction Staff line. It's the first one you get. I love this skill. It's a nice spammable that you can use in a big mob of enemies. It's going to do magic damage as well after that Flame, Shock, and Frost damage. Swallow Soul, which is also going to do magic damage and heal you for 37% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. This is also a skill that you can also spam for a single target, okay? So your single target spam is this. Your AoE or mob target spam is this, okay? Mage Inner Light is just a slottable skill from the Mage's Guild. Inner Light is something you do not ever use. It's just on your bar. It's the first skill you get. This is going to increase our max Magicka by 5% and give you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical ratings, okay? And by the way, Swallow Soul is the first skill here in the siphoning line. Next skill is Sap Essence. This is a all-star skill. This is the last skill in siphoning. This is going to deal 6, 3, 8, 5 magic damage to all nearby enemies. So it's like an AoE. It's going to heal you and your allies for 1910 plus 20% more for each enemy hit. If an enemy is hit, you gain Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. So we got spell damage increase, we got spell critical increase, and max magic increase right here. Impale, this is your ranged slash melee, doesn't really matter. It's 28 meter range. Execute. So when the enemy has 25% health, you stop using Swallow Soul and you use Impale. It's that simple. Your ultimate here is Fiery Rage. Impale, by the way, is the first skill. It's just the morph of Killer's Blade, or it's the opposite of Killer's Blade in Assassination. Fiery Rage, Destruction Staff ultimate here, first one. I like using this a lot, but again, you want to use this to get that increased in damage. Okay, so let's go to the armor sets real quick. Armor sets. Jerkin of Mother Sorrow, pretty simple. Grindable in Deshaun, base game overland set. It gives you a bunch of spell critical. It's fantastic. Divines, you want to use max Magicka enchants. It's really simple. Jewelry and weapons. We're using War Maiden, okay? War Maiden is an overland set in Morrowind. Again, base game, okay? This is going to give you spell critical, max Magicka spell damage, and it's going to add 600 spell damage to your magic damage abilities. You saw literally almost all of our abilities are magic damage. So we're going to get a massive increase in spell damage to magic damage. I love War Maiden for this. You can do War Maiden's Inferno Staffs. Again, you can use Mother Sorrow here, but I'm trying to save you some money and time grinding. I guess War Maiden is still going to have to be grinded for this, but still, I think it's probably significantly cheaper than Mother Sorrow. So you got that there. Alambris is the monster that we're using. I like Alambris a lot. Whenever you deal Flame Shock damage, you have 33% chance to summon a Meteor Shower that deals 470 Flame, 470 Shock to all enemies within 4 meters. This is just a nice little monster set that I like using on my Magicka DPS characters. Okay, so for the champion points for the Warfare, again, we have some standard stuff that you can put in when you have the points, but we're slotting Fighting Finesse, we're slotting Deadly Aim, we're slotting Thaumaturge, and we're slotting Biting Aura in here. For the red, we are slotting Rejuvenation, Survival Instincts, Siphoning Spells, and or slotting sustained by suffering. Increases your health, magic, and stamina recovery by 30 per stage while under the effects of a negative effect. Okay, so that's really nice as well. Okay, so let's go into the rotation. Again, it's a very, very simple rotation. What you're going to do is you're going to pop your resolve, your strikes, then you're going to do shade, twisting path, wall of elements, switch bars. And there you go. Lambert's already procced. Okay, so again, your resolve, strikes, shade, twisting path, wall. Okay, when you get to this bar, you're going to use your sap essence as your AoE. And again, if you're using, if you're fighting a single target enemy, you're going to spam siphon health, or swallow soul, I mean. Okay. And then if you're in a mob group like this, you would use force shock, or force pulse, I mean. Okay. Now, that's your rotation. It's that simple. Okay. Now, the only difference is when the enemy is below 25% health, instead of spamming either force shock or funnel health, or swallow soul, I mean, you're gonna spam impale, and you can do this from 28 meters away. See, it's pretty insane. So that's the rotation, you know. And again, you use your soul harvest ultimate whenever it's up, and that's it. It's really, really simple. Okay, so now we're gonna do the healer. So the healer starts out, we've got 64 points in Magicka. Again, I'm using a Breton. You could use an Argonian or an Altmer as well. 39.4k max Magicka, 64 points into it. And we got the Ritual Moon to Stone and Longfin Pasty with melon sauce. For the skills, we're using Destruction Staff and Resto Staff. So back bar is Blockade Storms. Again, just Destruction Staff right here. We're using Siphoning Attacks, which is just going to help us with Sustain. It's really nice. Again, I like it a lot. Merciless Resolve is going to give us, again, 10% critical healing, which is really, really good. Sap Essence, which is going to be a damage and a heal, and it's going to give us Major Brutality. And Refreshing Path, which is a basically a speed boost and a heal as well in the area, which is really nice. We're using Soul Siphon, which is a massive heal over time, and this is going to give your allies the ability to use Soul Leech Synergy. I really like that. For the front bar, we got the rest of stuff using Healing Springs. This is going to be a heal over time. Restore 30 Magicka as well every time an ally or you is healed. Funnel Health, which is a AoE slash heal over time. This is going to inflict damage as well to enemies. This is the morph, the opposite morph of the Swallow Soul. Energy Orb, which is going to give resources back and heal for anyone who takes this energy, but it's just going to heal in general over time. Combat Prayer is one of your best skills as a healer. It's going to give Minor Berserk, Minor Resolve as well, and it's going to be a nice burst heal. And Healthy Offering, which is something that's going to cost health on your end, but again, this is going to be a massive heal over time. And it's going to give you minor mending as well, which is going to increase your healing done by 8%. Now, your ultimate on this bar, you could use Bolstering Darkness, or you can use Warhorn. I like Bolstering Darkness just because it's more fun, in my opinion, but that's going to be a massive heal as well if someone picks up the Hidden Refresh Synergy. Now for our armor, again, this is going to be some very basic armor. For the body pieces, we're using Jerkin of Prayer. This is in Spindle Clutch, base game dungeon. This is going to give... whenever you overheal yourself or an ally, you grant them a damage shield that absorbs 4997 damage for 6 seconds. This can occur once every 2 seconds. Again, this is just a great beginner healer set, in my opinion. I love it. Divines and max Magicka enchants. I really don't feel like you need infused on this because you have so much Magicka. I mean, I really just don't think you need infused. But we did use Sentinel of Rakugames for the monster set. Again, base game dungeon, Dark Shade 1. Very easy to do. I'm using infused on this one, but you could use divines. This is just going to be an amazing monster set for you. It summons a Dwemer Spider that heals for 1352 health and restores 125 magic and stamina to you and your allies within 5 meters every 1 second for 8 seconds. It's a great monster set. Your jewelry and weapons, Winter's Respite. This is a overland set in Greymoor in Skyrim. So this is just going to give you max Magicka, and magic recovery. And then casting abilities that leave an effect on the ground will create a circle of healing for us for 10 seconds. This is going to be a nice heal over time. Again, you're going to put a lot of effects on the ground. So very, very good set here. Again, you can switch this with prayer. Like, it doesn't matter which weapons or body you use, but I just did this because you can buy these instead of having to farm the weapons of prayer. So let's go into the champion points real quick, and then I'll just go into like a pseudo rotation. Again, there's no really rotation with healer, but it's, you know, pretty simple. But champion points here, we're going to slot fighting finesse. We're going to slot enlivening overflow. So whenever you overheal yourself or an ally, you grant health, magic, and stamina recovery equal to 0.5% of your max magicka up to a cap of 150. So we're going to have a 150 health, magic, and stamina recovery, which is really nice every time we overheal. And that goes with our prayer set. We're running 50 and slotted focus mending, so increased healing done with a single target. And swift renewal increases healing done with healing over time effects by 2%. Into the red tree, nothing's really changing here. We're going 50 into rejuvenation, 50 into survival instincts, 50 into siphoning spells, and we're going to go 50 into sustained by suffering. Okay, again, there's no real rotation with, you know, this, you know, as a healer technically, but as a healer, you can just, again, you start off with Merciless Resolve, siphoning, and then you would want to use like your Wall of Elements here for the dot, and also just to help your teammates out. You could pop your Sap Essence there to start off heals. Refreshing Path for heals as well, but when you're on this is your healing bar, and then it just becomes reactive. So you'll throw your orb out, you know, every so often so you can give resources to each teammate. You want to always have Combat Prayer up on your teammates because, again, it adds Minor Berserk, Minor Resolve. And then you just lay your hots down and reactive heal. I mean, it's really that simple. So yeah, it's pretty simple as a healer, you all. Okay, now let's go into the tank. This is my tank actually on the live server, and this is the build that I have on the website and our YouTube channel. It's the Sap tank. I use a resto staff in that, but I've been becoming more comfortable with just using the ice staff sword and board. So you don't have to use the resto staff if you don't want to. I've been preferring this actually over that. But this one is so fun. And again, there are some sets in this that are really, really solid and just really fun to use. But let's go into this again. So the stats, we're using a Dark Elf for this. You can use a Nord, you could use an Imperial, you can use an Argonian, but I like using Dark Elf. Right now, we are using the Lord Mundustone, and we are also using the Longfin Pasty with Melon Sauce, and we are 52 points into health, 4 into magicka, and 8 into stamina. For our skills on the back bar, we have the Blockade of Fire, which again, this is actually going to be an ice staff, but I have not actually found the ice staff yet that I need. It's been kind of a joke in my stream. I have just not been able to get it. But this is just going to be something that you use. You could also use the lightning staff here as well. We got Dark Cloak. Dark Cloak is a massive heal over time. So this is going to be able to, again, just be a really, really nice heal for you. This is also going to give you minor protection. We're using Silver Leash. Silver Leash is from the Fighters Guild. It's the first skill you get. This is a pull ability. I love this skill for any tank that does not have a natural pull, but I just love it. Okay, so this one's really good. Refreshing Path is, again, a heal over time and a speed boost for you and your team. Sap Essence is, again, a buff. This is a heal and damage skill as well, plus a nice buff, like I said. And we're using Bolstering Darkness, which is fantastic for this energy for your teammates. On the front bar, we have Pierce Armor, which is from your Sword and Board line. This is a taunt. It's really good. You want to keep this up all the time. We're using Lotus Fan. This is a leap that will also apply minor vulnerability, but it will do some magic damage over 10 seconds as well. I really like this one. We're using Inner Rage, which is a ranged taunt that you use when you need to at range. We're using Mirage, which again is in The assassination line. It's going to give you major evasion and minor resolve. This is really fantastic. And then our last skill here is leeching strikes to give us stamina back. We are using soul tether for our ultimate here. I love this ultimate. It's so very, very fun. But this build is all about just sapping essence and gaining health and doing damage over time. And so as you see in our armor sets here, it's some selfish armor sets, but again, it will help your teammates out as well, just by you staying alive and everything. But we are using 5 pieces of crimson. Now you're going to see that I have this mix and matched with leeching, and that is because I have not been able to get everything perfect the way I want it. And again, it's become a joke, but essentially 5 pieces of crimson, 5 pieces of leeching. And you can again switch out the weapon here for something else if you'd like. But again, this is because I have not been able to get this on the live server all the way yet, but I do have it, so it's just not everything I want. But again, you've got Crimson, which will, after taking damage, you surround yourself with 8-meter mist of blood. After 2 seconds, the mist violently siphoned into your body, dealing 5,535 bleed damage to nearby enemies and healing you for 100% of the damage done. This will scale off your max health. Leeching is and Crimson, by the way, is gained by doing Castle Thorn. You can do it on normal, so you don't have to do it on vet. Leeching is from Imperial City Prison. This is a free dungeon as well, and this one is whenever you take damage, you summon a cloud of leeching poison under the assailant. The cloud deals 14 poison damage every 1 second for 5 seconds and heals you for 100% of the damage caused. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds and scales off your max health. Again, 2 damaging effects that are really, really nice, but also heal you. It might be overkill, but I really like these effects. I'm using Earth Gore as well as a monster set. This is from Bloodroot Forge. This is a DLC dungeon, but this is a massive heal when it procs. And again, it's very, very nice here to use this mixed with these sets as well. I'm using a light head and a medium shoulder. You can do that if you'd like to as well. And the traits on these pieces are going to differ. You could use like infused for chest and like legs, and you could use either sturdy or reinforced for these arms, belt, and shoes. For the jewelry, I'd recommend getting purple jewelry if you can. Starting out though, you could just use blue like I am. I'm using magic recovery enchants. I'm using the healthy trait. And so for that, again, that is up to you, but you'll see a mix and match set here. Again, it's because I have not fully been able to farm this. And again, my stream never lets me, never forgets to let me forget that. So yeah, it's a troll now in the channel. But that is the armor sets. Again, if you want to switch these out with a little bit easier sets, you could switch these out with Ebon, which is in the base game as well. That's in Crypt of Hearts. That's just a very solid tank set. So again, these are just, in my opinion, they're not that hard to get, but I love this Nightblade build. It's one of my favorite builds. Let's go to the champion points real quick. For the champion points, for the blue, you're going to run 20 into quick recovery, and then you're slotting duelist rebuff, enduring resolve, unassailable, and reposit or riposte, or whatever you say that. For the red, you are slotting survival instincts, rejuvenation, fortified, boundless vitality, and those are your slottables there. So for rotation, there's really no rotation for tank. Again, you want to always make sure your taunt is up, but what I like to do before the fight is I like to use my leeching strikes, my mirage for like my major resolve, and then I'll pop a refreshing path, lay my wall of elements down, and then I'll lotus fan in. And then after that, it's blocking, light attacking, heavy attacking, and really just reacting. If you see your teammates are low, make sure to heal them. You can use your sap essence, and it's pretty simple with this. But that is going to wrap up the Ultimate Nightblade Class video. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like below. Hit the bell icon, heavy attack the bell icon to increase your DPS and to stay up to date on all the content in the channel. Make sure to subscribe as well. Leave me a comment below if you have any questions. Again, these Ultimate Class guides are meant to help you understand the class better and just give you some places to start out with these builds. I'm obviously not covering every single thing that could possibly be in this, but there are a lot of builds out there on YouTube, on websites. So if you're looking for specific builds, I have some, and I will eventually have one for every single role and every single class on my website and in the YouTube channel. But there are plenty of other people out there as well that have some great high-end builds, and so definitely check those out. But this Ultimate Class Guide series has been really fun for me. I've got 2 more left. We've got the Warden and we've got the Templar. So let me know down in the comments below which one you'd like to see next. Again, these have been a blast to make, and they take a lot of time for sure to make. So I do really appreciate the likes. I really do appreciate the feedback. And again, I really hope that these are informative for you all, because these, in my opinion, I'm really excited that they have been able to be a resource for people to use. Again, I really do appreciate everyone watching, and you can always find me on twitch.tv/brahwegotthis. You can follow me on my Twitter account. You can join our Discord, and you can check out our website at brahwegotthis.com. But until next time, y'all, just remember to have faith, be great, and I'll see you on ESO.